You gonna stay all comfy over here? Okay, you got your duck. This is Moose's favorite duck. For those of you who don't know, this is Moose. This is his baby duck. It's pretty much his exclusive toy he uses as a soothing binky sort of when he's sleeping and napping and cuddling. His current state. Alright friends, it's you and me and the worms today. We're going to be checking on our hot frog today, and specifically we're going to be checking how our toilet paper rolls are doing. Not that I think anybody's actually eating them right now, but I'm just curious to see if anybody wandered down there. And we're also going to be filling in some of the other area layers with any extra bedding. I know we have some we want to put up at the top, but I figured while we're going, we'll make sure we put some extra shredded paper in there. For those of you who are new to vermicomposting or composting with worms, we use the term bedding loosely because technically it is bedding for the worms, kind of like you have shredded wood chips or whatnot for gerbils. But in this case, the bedding is also food. It's not a high priority interest food, but the worms do eventually break it down. So whether you use coconut coir, shredded paper, shredded cardboard, old paper towel rolls, whatever paper type products that you're using, it does get broken down eventually, as with most paper products. So this mix is a blend of, shredded papers from the mail, I will say not the glossy stuff. We're trying to just use just printer paper type stuff. There's some grocery bags in there. There's some cardboard boxes in there. There's, a little bit of everything. So we'll have a nice healthy blend to fill in. Now, why are we doing this? We're doing this because while we technically just have one bin active, these are curious little creatures. Worms go where they want to go. Sometimes they make it back home, sometimes they don't. So this provides a little bit of substance, not a lot, but it'll, the moisture content's really what's going to hurt them. They'll dry out. But theoretically, if we have extra liquid up here and we have 3 tiers below it for the drainage to kind of go through, it will, I don't want to say it'll keep everything wet, but over time it will slowly increase the moisture levels. And partially why we're doing this, again, for those of you who are new, is theoretically in a best case scenario, if you're getting started with worms, you don't really want to just be like, okay, I shredded some boxes, I got some worms, we're going to put them in there and boom. You kind of want to space it out a little bit, if possible, to give them some, the microbes time to kind of start percolating and adjusting and acclimating and scaling up. So that's what we're doing. By putting these shredded elements in the lower bins and even at the top, it's going to help, I don't want to say inoculate, but it's going to help everything kind of slowly increase the, we'll say the biodiversity that's there. Anyways, these are also part of our hydroponic experience. There's a whole video on that separate. Nothing really too exciting. They're still seeds pretty much at this point, but if you're wondering what those are, it's for hydroponic experience we're doing. Okay, let's get to the bottom and work our way up. Right, now this is the lowest point. You're not technically supposed to have bedding in here, but it was recommended in my first round of using my hot frog. And as you can tell, there are no worms in here. It's dry. There's no moisture. So we're good. I'm not going to add more to this. I did get to cheat a little bit and see, because I was taking things off, obviously. And this is the next layer up. Let me see if I can pull this up. There you go. You can see a little bit better. You could tell where the bin above it was kind of dented into the toilet paper. But again, this is very dry. There's no moisture in here at all. No worms, obviously. So not really much to add here. I could put a little bit, back behind this area just to kind of wedge it in, but I'm not super worried about that right now. So what does that mean? Well, it's actually pretty great, because that means that our method of kind of slow and low frequent food feedings up top is working out good, and we're not having any situation where the moisture is so crazy it's dripping down. So in my opinion, I think that means we're doing a great job. Another layer, again, we can see where the dents are from the tier above, but again, dry, no moisture at all, so that's great. We're gonna get the next 2 layers on. I'll bump up the camera a little bit so you can see. All right, now this is the one I'm most curious in because this is the tier right below our active tier. So you can see well, I think you can see, yeah, you can see there's some coconut coir on the top here, and that was there's obviously coconut coir in the bottom because we mixed the coconut coir together with the paper when we started. So we took a brick of coconut coir and split it between the 2 tiers, mixed it with a lot of bedding. But I kind of think, I don't want to disrupt it too much, but this kind of looks like it might have come through a little bit from above, but this is also completely dry. So, you know, if a worm made it down here, they're probably going back up because there's no moisture for them to really survive / thrive on, most likely. And clean off this top. And then, just for those of you who are curious, this is the active tier, and I had it sitting on top of our countertop, and this is the extent of the mess that it made. So if you're a renter like me and you're worried about the mess or anything, this is very manageable. I do think it's interesting though that we have some mites moving around on here, so I'm not terribly surprised given the time of the year, but that's interesting given how dry that bin is, at least the stuff below it. So interesting, but again, it's peak summer here in Florida, so the mite season is strong. All right, Mom Nurtures, let's see how our bin is doing. Right now, I always like to check the top, see how our worms are doing. We got this big baby here. We're just gonna push you in. I always knock them back in because I worry about when I cover this back up. You know, I don't like these guys here on the corner. I don't want them to get squashed when I put the cover back on. So we try to just gently nudge them in, but otherwise, not too much activity, and also a little bit of moisture on here, but not a huge amount. So very manageable. As you can tell here, this layer looks like it's being processed a lot, and it is because we're not feeding these worms as much as I guess we are feeding them a little bit more frequently these days, but by and large we're not feeding them excessively. We're spacing it out. Now, interestingly enough though, this looked the same as that tier we just saw below that was super dry. So this was this. We just added worms and food. So you can tell that they're processing, they're working through this, which is great. And I'm gonna get a little trowel, and there's not a lot of worms in here. So they're taking their time working through everything. But I'm not seeing a lot of bedding in here, which is fine. I see a little bit of worms here and there. I know where we fed in the past, the toilet paper rolls are often, ooh, it's this. Oh, it's this little eggshell. We can see it right here. There's a little bit of a paper towel roll. That's fine. And then I think the last feeding was over here. Yep. So they're still working on it. They're still working on it. Oh yeah, look at those babies. Look at them. Okay, I don't want to disrupt them too much because they're having a good time. But I do have a bit of a hectic week coming up, and I was like, you know, I'm just curious. We've been spacing out their food a lot. I'm curious what happens or how they'll manage if we do kind of a combined thing. So here's what I want to do. I'm working through this frozen Rubbermaid, and you can tell that I have looks like 3 toilet paper rolls remaining, although they're kind of frozen into one. And then I have this like random zucchini which didn't survive. Now, my thought was there's a lot of moisture in a zucchini, let alone a frozen zucchini. So what happens if I take that zucchini, we're gonna put it here where I know there's no worms, or at least not immediate anyways. And since I need to add a lot of bedding to this layer, 1, the bedding will help fill everything in, prevent bugs from getting in, but 2, I'm curious, will this moisture drip down into the tier below? I don't know. I'm curious. Like, can a half a zucchini or a quarter of a zucchini really make that much of a difference? I don't know. But I don't really want to add a lot of the bedding to it directly, because I don't, the last thing you want to do is take your healthy, happy worms and put them on freezing surfaces like a zucchini. So what we'll do, we're going to take some of the bedding, try not to make the mess. We will cover everything up. We're going to fill it nice and high. Make sure they have a lot of insulation. It's going to be very warm this week. And the next week, we'll check and see how that zucchini did and if they finished off this roll over here. Alright friends, thanks for watching. Till next time, bye!